at what point did it go from, okay, NCIS is investigating, your command leadership it's basically awkward at this point, right? Like, or I'm assuming it was like at the SEAL team, did there come a point where it was like you were the turd covered in ice cream and nobody would even fucking talk to you? Or
No, it was, they hid me away. So they put me in a log zoo, which is supply for everybody out there, but I had no job. I just sat and I was told to come in, check in, and that was it.
And so did there become a time where they came and fucking arrested you? And,
yes.
And how
so
did that
when I was at supply, they had called me the day prior and like, hey, the XO wants to talk to you tomorrow. He just wants to do a meet and greet. And I was like, okay. Threw on my uniform, went in the next morning, knocked on his door, and he opened it a crack and like looked at me, shut it, and then opened it again. There was probably 6 or 7 NCIS agents in there. They told me that I had to be detained. And they handcuffed me right there and sort of paraded me through the command, and took me to an interrogation room. It's at another base, 32nd Street. Once I was there, they were like, you know why you're here? I was like, no. They're like, well, you're being accused of war crimes, and we just want to hear your side of the story. Now I'm smart enough, and I'm like, I'm not going to talk to you without a lawyer. So I was like, I want my lawyer. They're like, okay, so you're not going to talk to us without a lawyer? I was like, yeah. Like, oh, we'll be right back. And they shut the door and left me in there for 7 hours. During that time, they'd been staking my house out for about 2 weeks. They sent pretty much a 25-man assault team at my house. They knew that my wife and myself weren't home. My 8-year-old son, who was watching cartoons at the time, had looked out the window and saw guys with assault rifles coming up to the house. He then ran upstairs to get my older son, who was sleeping. He told him there's guys with guns outside. My older son obviously thought he was messing around, but my youngest son started crying. So he then walked down to the front door, opened the door, and the NCIS agents put guns in their face, told them to put their hands up. My oldest son told me they had the breaching tool, one of those battering rams, ready to smash the door open. They pulled both my sons out into the street in their underwear and then just laid siege to my house. And that was sort of, I had no idea this was going on. I was just sitting in that interrogation by myself. My wife was notified by pretty much a neighbor. They were screaming at all the neighbors to get back in their house. They had blocked off my whole neighborhood. It was like I was a cartel member. The neighbor had called, it was a little girl, had called my daughter and was like, this is what's going on. And then my daughter called my wife and was like, this is what I was told. My wife drove home. They tried to interrogate her and pretty much just ransacked our house and took just an abundance of stuff. They let me out 7 hours later. I did not know this happened until I got home, because they took my phone and everything. That's when we were like, okay, this is real. Like because the whole time before that, I had trust in the command still that like somebody's going to see through this. Somebody is going to have some common sense here and actually look into this and see that this is all lies, or these allegations are so ridiculous. But at that point I was like, all right, this is nuts. I went into the command the next day, talked to the Group 1 Master Chief, who was Steve Ward, and I said, hey, my house was raided. My kids are pulled out at gunpoint. Please tell me what's going on. Nobody will talk to me. And he was like, I still can't talk to you about it. He's like, if you want to talk to a chaplain, go ahead. I said, that's your answer? He said, yeah. And he's like, oh, and by the way, because I had been selected for senior chief, he's like, you're not putting on senior chief until this investigation's over, which I never ended up doing, putting it back on. So after the house was raided, we had already planned to move to Florida. I was moving my family to Florida because I was planning on retiring, and then I was just going to geo-batch until my retirement from San Diego. So I moved them out there, got them settled in, flew back and went to NICO, which was like a TBI clinic in Pendleton. So I went there, and about a week and a half, 2 weeks into that, the command showed up and arrested me, told me they had orders from the Commodore Rosenblum and Admiral Green. Admiral Green had just taken over command, and he signed off on it to throw me in the brig.
So, I mean, in that 2 week period, what was taken? I mean, obviously, if nobody's talking to you, like, it seems odd that, I mean, did you talk to a lawyer? I mean, did he give you any insight? I mean, were there charges? What?
No charges.
No. How can they raid your house and take your shit with no charges?
It's all, and this is where the corruption and just the way they go about doing things. The reason they raided my house like that was it's a shaming tactic, because, and it worked. Our neighbors, who had, some of them we'd known for a while, were like, well, you must have done something for this to happen. There was no reason they had to do it that way. They could have literally walked up with two guys and been like, hey, we have a warrant. They were just going off hearsay. That's all it was. They had no evidence of anything. But like I said, this Joe Warpinski, this prosecutor, was running the whole show for NCIS, and that's the way he conducted business.
Is that something that, if I'm assuming it's outside the bounds of protocol, is that something that you guys are fighting for now on the kind of an offensive standpoint on your end? Or?
Yeah, I mean, we're not doing a lawsuit, but we are going, expose exactly what happened and how this corruption and misconduct took place, because I think people do need to know.
Yeah. So, all right. So they show up 2 weeks later while you're processing out of the military, basically going through a TBI clinic, and they say you're under arrest.
You're under arrest. They did not give me a reason. I asked, why. I've been, I was at the TBI clinic. I was like, I haven't been doing anything. I've been pretty professional up to this point, doing exactly what you guys told me to do. Why am I being thrown in? And they said, we don't know. It's just been signed off. It wasn't until I was about a week in the brig when I found out that when you're a week in the brig, you get, it's called an initial review hearing, where they determine whether you stay in the brig or not. And I was like, I'm getting out, because there's absolutely no reason that I should be in here. That's where I first saw the prosecutors, and where I first learned the command was completely with the prosecution trying to, hang me out to dry. The prosecution got up at that initial review hearing and pretty much called me, everything under the sun. They were like, this guy is a drug abuser. He beats his wife. I mean, crazy allegations, and that have no evidence of anything. But that's the crazy system, is they can say whatever they want, and you literally just sit there and take it. The neighbor, Josh Vrenz, had wrote a letter the day before that hearing and said that I was stalking him, and he was afraid for his life. And so on there, he said that I had walked my dogs, which I have 2 French bulldogs, past his house, and that scared him and his family. And he said that was intimidation.
Well, French bulldogs are nasty.
They are. They got attitude. But that's why I was kept in the brig, pretty much. They were like, well, this
because of his letter?
Yeah, and they knew that. NCIS probably had him write it. And this Josh Renz is crazy. I mean, he definitely lost his marbles after that deployment, and he was...
So any history of problems, disciplinary problems from him, or was he...
No, he was one of those guys... how do I describe him? He had a flair for the dramatics, and one of those uber Bible thumper, to where he thought he was above everybody else because, of his Christian faith. And
did you ever have altercations with him, cross words, get in an argument with him? And was there ever...
Exactly the opposite. I actually had him over at my house for Bible study. And this is where he joined forces with Craig Miller, Dalton, Tolbert, and DeLay. Now, he was a younger guy, and I honestly think he was just looking to fit in. And so he was like, you know what? I'll join your guys' cause here and whatever I got to do. And then from there, Joe Warpinski sort of took Vrins under his wing and sort of made him an honorary NCIS agent, to where he had Vrins staking my house out. So he was my neighbor. And the whole time I would see him and I would give him little head nods or a little wave. I didn't talk to him because of the whole drama from the platoon, but I had no idea he was like involved in anything up to that point. So when I saw this letter from him, I was like, this is crazy. Like, what do you mean I'd walk my dogs there? Like, that's the route. I take them all the time. And I told him, I was like, I had even no idea this guy was even involved. But Vrins had, I mean, yeah, he lost his marbles. He had also, well, backtrack a second. I went to a SEAL Future Fund event, and he was at that event. And this is before my house was raided. And there was a knife auctioned off at that event by one of my good friends, Andy Arabito. He owns Half Face Blades. He auctioned the knife off to raise money for the SEAL Future Fund Foundation. And Vrins at that event called NCIS and said, oh, he's trying to auction off the murder weapon. So now this Vrins guy, because he's so out of his mind, he got SEAL Future Fund involved, and now they're getting investigated. And it was nothing to do with anything. But in his mind, he was, I mean, that's where I'm like, he lost his marbles, and he was just so invested in trying to find ways to, screw me over. And that ended up, I mean, wasting NCIS's time, everybody's time, because they were calling this SEAL Future Fund and like, well, you guys auctioned off a murder weapon, and it just didn't go anywhere. But it just shows you where this guy's head's at. So when he wrote this letter saying I was stalking him, it was just more of the same. Like, all right, man, like, you're a little loopy. But honestly, that's what kept me in the Brig the whole time. And then once you're in the Brig, if you don't make it, no one gets out of that IRO hearing ever, really. And once you go past that, you're not getting out until your trial.